Bonjour, everyone. Hi, I'm Neshi Lokotz. I'm your host for Communications from Home, which is my weekly evening show every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then before I forget, I got to do something here. I always forget to put the overlay on. I have to send myself one of those reminders. There we go. There. So tonight is Tuesday, May 4th, and this evening, our chat is all about the ancient connection to the drum. And it's one of my favorite topics because I have been connected to the drum all of my life. Started when I was just a toddler, and my Misho, my grandfather, he would be using his cane to drum a beat on the floor of their two-room cabin. And all the grandchildren would dance, and I started dancing at a very, very young age, professionally, Native American dancing, age of 5, and I have loved the drum ever since. I have a very strong connection to it, and so that's one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight is our connection. It's a very ancient connection to the drum, and it is everybody in the entire world. All of our ancestors had some type of drum that they used. They used the beat of the drum. And now all of our drums might have looked different. They might have sounded a bit different, but it was that connection to the heartbeat of Grandmother Earth and the universe, really. Right. So before we get going too far down the road, I want to welcome everybody who is with me this evening for the show. Thank you so much for being here, both in the live version, which is right now, and for those that will be joining us through the recorded replays. Thank you so much for making time to be with us as well. Now, if you love the drum as much as I do, or you have a certain connection to the drum that you'd like to share with someone else, I would make the strong suggestion is to send it over to a friend that you think that would enjoy this kind of conversation, the video. And also, it would really be, I would really appreciate it if you could also like the show. That would be great. Okay, so this connection to the drum goes back to our very early ancestors. Okay, and we all kind of have it's almost like a creation story of the drum, and every culture has something like that, and when and how the drum actually came to be with the people, right? And so that connection is in our blood, in our bones, in our DNA, and it's in our hearts. It's in our hearts, and it's in that ancient place in our brains that we recognize that sound, and we're drawn to it like moths to a flame. We are drawn to it, and how many people, you might be out maybe in the summertime or the fall, and you hear the sound of a drum somewhere in the neighborhood or wherever you're at. And do you ever have that inclination or that huge spark of curiosity? Where is that coming from? And you have to go and look for it, right? That would be me. I'd be going searching out, where is that drumming coming from? And so, yeah, it makes me smile. It brings me a lot of happiness, actually, to do that. So as I was pulling together the show, getting prepped for it, I knew I wanted to bring one of my own drums to show you. I also wanted to share some things that I think some people would find very interesting, maybe fascinating about the beat of the drum. And also to be able to share with you my personal experiences. And I would say the people that are in the live chat, if you have a story about your personal experience with the drum, please share it. Please share it. Okay, so I'm going to say hi to a few folks here. Rob's here, loved and shared. You just deal with it. Gosh darn it all to heck. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Rochelle says, I can't hear or see you. Oh, no. Rob says he can see me and hear me. So maybe, Rochelle, you need to refresh your screen. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things. Hi, Julie. Julie's here too. I love it when you're in the chat room. Rob says, I'm a bass player. I drank the drummer under the table and ruled the day. Well, isn't that funny though? Um, my connection to the drum is with, the Native American drum, of course, the drumming with that, but there's drums everywhere, right? All kinds of bands have drums. And what do they do, Rob? Other than drink, the drummers, other than they do that, they keep the beat, right? They keep us on beat, and they're the ones that are letting us know that this is how fast we're going. And professional drummers, that they literally have to learn how to focus and keep that beat all the way through, no matter what's going on. And I find it fascinating to watch, especially rock drummers. Santana, when I saw him in live and in person, the drummers that he had with him, and just watching how they do their art, and it's fascinating how they control their arms, their legs, and they sing too. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Okay, and oops, I'm sorry, Bill. Bill, hello, Bill. Oh, well, Paul Tolaki. I hope I pronounced that right. Hi, Bill. Good to have you here. And hello, finally. Yay, Rochelle, you're in the house, lady. Hello from YouTube land. Rob has also got that going too, because we're simulcasting. We've been doing that for quite some time now, both Facebook Live and also YouTube Live. So hi, everybody from YouTube land. Rob says the bass player locked his keys in his car and the drummer was locked in there for hours. You're too funny. Oh, Jacqueline's here too. Hi. How you doing, Jocelyn? Sorry, Jocelyn. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So, oops. Here's the thing about our ancient connection to the drum. Like I said, every culture had some sort of drum. And we use the beat of the drum for many different reasons. Some of it was social, some of it was communication, some of it was spiritual, and some of it was actually for our physical health as well. And so it covered all of our bodies, right? And get this, not everybody had a drum. There are certain people within the tribe, if you will, that were the drummers, that were the singers. And before the drum actually got into a lot of people's hands, most people used their voices to sing. And so when the person or people who had the drums, because they were expensive, and it took a while to be able to even just make any kind of drum, that those people that would bring out the drums, they were a part of the community that were sometimes seen as healers, right? The bards, if you want to go over to Europe and that part of Grandmother Earth, the bards that would go from village to village, they're the ones that would carry the stories. They would carry almost like text messages, from one family to another, sharing information and news. But they were also the ones that kept the history of their people as well. So the drum was a thread, if you will, that connected all of the cultures, And I find that fascinating and heartwarming too, that there is another snapshot of how we're all connected, right? How we're all connected. So I've got a couple of things that I want to share with you about the drum that when I went out to do the prepping for the show, I thought, you know what, we need to bring in a little about the left brain information too about drumming, because I think it's important that we cover all of our bodies, right? When we're talking about this ancient connection. And so one of the things that I found was, and I was kind of fascinated with this one. It's an article by Dr. Christine Northrup. Some of you might recognize her. She's very famous MD. She's really into women's health and holistic health. Okay. And she had an article out called 10 health reasons to start drumming. And I thought, well, what does Christine Northrup have to say about this? And some of the things she mentioned, I have either read many times or it brings in the information to another perspective, another group of people. Okay. So she says that drums have been used in every culture for many purposes, from religious rituals and other ceremonies to sporting events, and as a way to communicate or to signal. And sometimes that communication and signaling was actually about safety. Okay. And of course, she mentioned shamans. How can you talk about drums without mentioning shamans? And she says that shamans use drumming as a means of reaching an altered or trance-like state, also used therapeutically in ancient times. So, and then research also shows that the physical transmission of the rhythm, the rhythmic beat, actually affects our physical brain. And it helps to synchronize both left and right hemispheres. And from a psychological point of view, because, I was a student of psychology, that is something that can actually bring us into entrainment, and it relaxes us. It relaxes us. So when the left and right brain are acting together, our intuition jumps up, right? Because both hemispheres are pulsating together, it increases our inner guidance system, because we're able to really take in the information and assimilate it quite quickly. Does that make sense? I think it does. How many people have danced to the beat of a drum? And don't you, if you go far, long enough, you can feel that trance-like situation, right? And those of us that do a lot of drumming, you get into the zone, is what we call it. You get into the zone, and it affects our physical mind. Our physical mind. It also brings us together. So she says that drumming can induce a natural high because it increases the alpha brain waves. And when our brains change from the beta, which is our concentration in everyday life, right, to the alpha waves, we feel calmed and relaxed. Calmed and relaxed. Now, I think it depends on what kind of drumming you listen to and what kind of music is around it. There's some powwow, because in my house, there's a lot of powwow music. There's a lot of rock music. There's Celtic music and classical music. And so, there's a lot of different kind of music in my house, but I think it depends on what kind of beat is we're listening to that affects us, calms us down. I don't think rock music was meant to calm us down. Alpha waves can also produce feelings of well-being, even euphoria, which may help people who suffer from a lot of different kind of illnesses, anxiety, depression. And alpha activity is associated with meditation. We all know that here at Star Nations, right? And other integrative methods and modes. So that's Christine Northrup. And she, I think, because of the people who are connected to Christine Northrup, they follow her, having some sort of information like this helps to bring that information to a wider, larger audience, so they can take in the information and maybe give drumming a try, or to listen to certain kind of drum music in that way, right? So let me ask you this, guys. What is your favorite kind of drum music to listen to or drumming to do? Right? Because not every drumming is exactly the same. In Native American hand drumming, you're not going to find music sheets. That's not going to happen. When you're sitting around a big drum at a powwow, and you've got 4 to 8 people sitting around a big drum drumming together, you're not going to find music sheets. Right. Those drum beats and those lyrics, especially in the native language, those are passed down from generation to generation. They're taught from an oral tradition. Okay. Unlike, and I have a bodhrán. It's a Irish drum, Celtic drum. Now there's sheet music to that. And there's a certain way of drumming for that. So what is your favorite? What is your favorite? Rob is saying both binaural and isochronic tones are based on the same thing, though each is a different technology. Oh, that's good to know. Hey, Deanna, good to have you here. And let's see, Deanna? Is that a high five or are you raising your hand? I can't tell. Rob is saying I chant to the carrier tone of the drum. You do? That'd be interesting to do too. Maybe when you're up here next month, we'll give that a try. Jocelyn says dancing to the beat of a drum is like a connection to another world. It can be. It can be. Depending on what kind of drumming I'm dancing to, yes, very easy to be able to slip into the trance-like dance, right? Very easy to do that. I'm going to do a little shamanic beat for you guys in a little bit too, so you can see the difference between the two. Julie saying, I made drum with you almost 2 years ago. God, has it been 2 years already? I would love to learn how to drum. We can do that. Easy peasy, Julie. And it's been 2 years. I can't believe that. Time flies. Jocelyn says, most drumming on the hand drum and my big drum. Yes. And when you are drumming with other people on a big drum, that is, that takes a lot of coordinated effort. And there's a lead drummer, right? And so that lead drummer usually is the most experienced drummer when they're at powwows. Now that can switch off, when they're practicing and teaching other drummers, younger drummers, or less experienced drummers, because sometimes that doesn't go with chronological age. Yeah, and I have to tell you, I very seldom can I drum and sing at the same time. Yeah. I think that's a very gifted person who can do that. But I can't do that. I have to practice. I think that's what the deal is. Deanna says, Sweat Lodge drumming, Boon Dance, Led Zeppelin. Exactly. Yes, ma'am. I'm right there with you. And Rob says, I've been visualizing how to turn my bass into a shamanic drum. I'm not there yet. Oh, I'm sure you'll find a way. I'm sure you'll find a way, Rob. You'll have to share with us what that is when you get there. Got to get a drink. Okay. So here's a little bit more information about the drum. So for those people who really like to know about some things about the drum, okay, the things that we may not think that's connected to the drum. And here's something else that Christine Northrup had said. She says, here's her 10 things about drumming. It makes you happy. Well, we know that, right? It makes you happy, but it's about the alpha waves and the endorphins that's created. It induces deep relaxation. It can actually help control chronic pain. Why is that, or how is that? It's because it takes our mental mind off from the pain for a short period of time, long enough for our body to produce natural opiates, opiate-like, I should say, painkillers that our body already produces. Now I think that's fascinating. And early in my psychological education, when I was going through college, I helped with a chronic pain study, and that's where I learned how to do and deliver guided meditations. And so, had I known about that and drumming at the same time, I would have included the drumming into that. We would have had to figure out that experimental group piece, but we would have added that. It boosts our immune system because it helps us to create and build natural T cells increases. Yay! See, all of us should have been drumming more last year, right? During the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic. We can still be drumming. It creates a sense of connectedness when you are in a drum group, right? When you are in a drum circle, and you might not know everybody there when you first get there. You're kind of shy, maybe, and you don't know exactly how this group runs, that kind of thing. But after a while, once you start drumming, don't you kind of relax and you kind of get into that group? And I love drum groups. I really do, especially the freeform ones. It can align us, our mind, body, and spirit with the natural world. That's another thing we know here, right, at Star Nations. We know that firsthand. And because it helps us put us into the flow, the natural flow of nature and that connectedness, especially when you know the aspects of your hand drum, the hide that's used, the wood that's used, the spirit of all of that is in your drum. And so when you have that connection to that, it really strengthens our connectedness to nature. It does. And there's a lot of people in the chat that have made a drum with me. And so you guys, that connection firsthand. It provides a way to access the higher power, she says. And what is that? That's spirit. So if you're using drumming from a shamanic point of view and how that you can help someone else, right? That we're the conduit for the healing process. That we are our spirit. And it also releases negative feelings. How many people have started out drumming not feeling so good? maybe you were sad or upset and angry or something, and you start drumming, and after a while, it lets go. It lets go. It helps us to express our emotions. It helps us to put us in the present moment. When you're drumming, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, because you are really connected to that drum beat in the present moment. So it kind of can go hand in hand with mindfulness, right? And drumming can also allow us and help us, assist us in personal transformation. And how or why is because we are literally connecting to our higher self, our spiritual self, and to spirit. Yeah. So the drum, that ancient connection that we have with the drum, goes far beyond um, just listening to it on a CD. That's good, because I do the same thing. It's good. But if you can ever put your hands on a real drum, and to be able to start drumming, whether you know exactly what you're doing or not, is just to start a beat. And so many people start with a heartbeat. And if you don't know how to do that, you just feel your own heart and follow the rhythm of your own heart. That's how you can get started. And sometimes that's all you need. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to get caught up with you guys. Rob says a banjo is just a string drum, but they don't make the tobacco I used to connect with my ancestors anymore. Aw, but at least you've got something that you can do that with. That's why I don't smoke a pipe anymore. I get it. Yeah. Both my dad and my grandfather, both smoked pipes. And Deanna says, "Oh my gosh, there's a certain song I need to not drum in order to sing." Thank you. I know. Oh my gosh. I wish I could. I know it's going to take practice. And why I haven't done it, I can't tell you. And honestly, there's times when there's drumming that I'd rather be dancing. I would rather dance to it. Because the way that I was taught how to Native American dance, powwow dance, is that with every beat of the drum, depending on what your song and what you're dancing, what kind of dance you're doing, is that with every step to that drum beat is you're putting down prayers into Grandmother Earth. And so it becomes a very prayerful connection, right? And yeah. And so I'd rather be dancing many times. All right, so here's another piece of information that I found. Maybe some people would like to know about this. I read an article called "This Is Your Brain on Drumming" by Jennifer Tarnacki, and it was written September of 2019. She states that shamanic drumming, which is a fast pace, 4 to 7 beats per second rhythm, has the ability to profoundly alter brain states, which is true. Science has found that. Ancient shamans knew this, and now a plethora of science backs it up. Don't you just love it when science finally catches up with us? And here she's stating that the two hemispheres of the human brain often operate at different levels at different rates. Okay? The steady beat of the shamanic drumming is a powerful tool for brain health because, by the very nature of its constant rhythm, it permeates the entire brain, bringing both hemispheres into rhythmic balance. Right? Rhythmic balance. And because that balance is exceedingly hard to come by in modern life, we have to consciously enter it. We actually have to consciously either listen to someone drumming, listen to a CD drumming, and by doing it consciously, we can actually deepen the healing process. When I read that, I said, I was saying out loud to myself here, it's like, yes, yes, and more yes. More yes. In that same article, she includes a PhD by Barry Quinn is his name. He's a clinical psychologist who runs a neurobiofeedback clinic about stress management. Stress management. Okay, so he's saying that during periods of normal alert activity, our brain waves operate at the level of a beta rhythm. In other words, beta is our everyday, like right now, we're all in beta, okay? And that's about 14 to 20 cycles per second beats. When people relax, their brain waves slow down to an alpha rhythm, which is the 7 to 14 cycles per second. Okay, so we all know the alpha is about meditation. It also gives us that euphoria, that feel good feeling, brings us happiness and joy. The alpha state is connected to the general feeling of relaxation and well-being. He states that there's an estimate that as much as 30 to 40% of the population is unable to regularly achieve alpha. 30 to 40%. I would say that a good portion of Star Nation's community, that we do this more often than the general population reach the alpha state. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I found that fascinating. Fascinating. So our connection, our ancient connection to the drum goes so much deeper than what most of us just do on the surface, right? That if we actually make time in our everyday life to listen to some drumming, just even for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, that it can help us with our health. It can help us relax. It relieves stress. Whether you're listening to a CD, streaming it, or if you get out your own drum and just drum for a little bit. Now, drumming for 15 minutes straight is pretty tough. You have to really know what you're doing to be able to do that. But, even if you're just drumming just for a little while, you can feel yourself starting to make that shift, right? Have you guys ever felt that? When you're drumming, how you can feel your body shifting, it's relaxing, it's changing, right? All right, I'm going to show you a couple things here. All right, so here's my 15-inch drum. This is a buffalo drum. I made it, what year was that? 2007, I made this drum. And it's a 22-inch buffalo hide drum. There's the back side of it. Okay. And with the buffalo, I have to tell you, as a drum maker, working with buffalo is a challenge. It's hard on the hands because the buffalo has a different kind of oil in its hide. It makes it a little bit more slippery, and it's thicker, so it's a little bit harder to stretch. You really have to put some elbow grease in there to really pull it, and so yeah, but it has a deeper sound, a deeper voice, and the buffalo medicine is all about that big medicine. Okay, just think about the size of a buffalo, and it's meant for outside of yourself. Right. So you're drumming prayers for maybe the whole world. Right. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use it for yourself, but it's pretty big medicine. It's a big energy field. Yeah. Okay. So I thought you'd like to hear what a shamanic beat is. That's 4 to 7 beats per second. Okay. So it's quite fast. All right. So here we go. All right. You ready? Now, I know that the sound when we're doing live streams and in drumming, the drum doesn't pick up the natural sound of the drum. Yeah, so we're just gonna give it a try here, give it a go. Here we go. This is a shamanic beat. It's very fast. It's very fast. And the best way to for me, and when you're learning about how to do shamanic journey, is that you're in darkness. Whether you're in a completely darkened room, or if you have a blindfold or a mindfold on, and you're listening to that, um, it helps you to get into that alpha, into that in between state, that trance like state. Yeah, and so that is the shamanic drum beat. Now, here's this: is that most of you that have gone to drum circles, right? You very seldom ever hear that beat at a drum circle. Very seldom. I will say never, but very seldom. Most of the time, this is what I hear. That's the heartbeat. Now, depending on what kind of drum circle you're at, the free form people would be kind of drumming faster, slower, louder, more quietly, and so you just eventually it kind of comes together, right? Yeah. The first time I ever went to a drum circle, I was in my 40s. When the first time I ever went to a drum circle, I didn't know what to expect, um, and it surprised me. It really did. When I thought people were trying to dance to this, it's like, you can't dance to something like that. Um, and if that's not even powwow drumming, that's not even powwow drumming. So the powwow drumming is something in between the shamanic drumming and the really slow heartbeat drum. So it's that connection that we have to it, though. We're just drawn to it. We really are. It fascinates us and it pulls us in. That you want more once you get that feeling, that alpha wave feeling. You crave it. You crave it. There we go. So let's see. I'm gonna get caught up with you guys. All right. Rob is saying theta to alpha, pick one. Exactly. Okay, so Rob is saying getting in tune with the earth is the Schumann wave. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I think Schumann. Yeah, that's been really in the news a lot, hasn't it? We talked about Schumann wave a lot. All right, so drumming for 15 minutes straight hits you in the triceps. Depends. It depends on if you know how to drum. Um, it's really going to actually start getting through here more than your triceps, because you're not using your whole arm. You're only using really your wrist. And yeah, when you're doing shamanic drumming and there's a 30-minute, drumming that you're doing, you need at least two people so that you can trade off. And so you stand across from each other, and so you trade off, so you're not drumming the entire 15 or 30 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so Rochelle says, I went to a 3-day workshop near Kalamazoo in 2016. Michael Northrup, a shaman priest, was there to have a drumming circle. It was my first experience with drumming. We drummed for about near an hour and a half, and I started feeling free, and felt like I was going out of my body, but he stopped the drumming. I believe he would have gone just a few more minutes. I believe I would have started having a truly out of body experience. Probably. Probably. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the reason why though he quit when he did. Because that puts the drum circle into a completely different intention, right? Because shamanic journey, if you're not trained in it, or you're not, no, if you don't know, that yeah, you could end up in some trouble. And so that's probably the reason why he stopped when he did. He was being safe. He was being safe and taking care of the group, which is a really good leader, right? So that was back in 2016, huh, Rochelle? Hmm. So with the drumming, it does touch. It does touch that ancient part of us that we may not even spend too much time considering in our modern everyday life. But if we can turn our attention to it and consciously, mindfully, listen to some drumming or do your own drumming for a few minutes, when um, you can really start making and feeling some shifts. Now, most of you know that I've been on what I've been calling the recalibration journey, and going back to the basics, right? Basics of just meditating. I went back to Tai Chi, those kinds of things. Getting back to basics. And drumming for me is one of those basics, whether it's listening to drumming music, drumming, dancing. Now, here's this is to be social right now in a cultural sense, um, because when my mom passed away in November, right? That in our beliefs in a traditional way is that socially that I'm not out there doing powwow dancing. I'm not doing that kind of thing for a whole year. And I know it's hard because I did it with my dad too. Um, Although I have to say the first, few months, you really don't feel like it. You don't feel like socializing. You don't feel like going out there and dancing. But the closer you get to that year, I'll be 6 months at the end of this month. I finally started listening to powwow music again about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I can feel the shift. I can feel the shift in that. And so, and how now we're heading into powwow season. There's springtime powwows are happening all across Turtle Island, North America. And um, yeah. And so, if I would go, I would be watching. I wouldn't be participating, I'd be watching. Um, yeah. So I share this with you because drumming and has been in our cultures for a very, very long time, for a very long time. And it affects us no matter if it's modern day or if, our ancestors are the ones that are doing this right now. It's the same. It's the same. So, drumming. Now, I promised several people back in 2019 that I was going to be doing a drum making workshop. I had been doing drum making workshops at least twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, sometimes more than that. For a long time, for several years, back to back years, I was over in Michigan almost every month teaching a drum making workshop. But we have one coming up in June on the 12th because I promised a whole bunch of people back in 2019 that I was going to be doing a drum making workshop. Well, COVID hit. That was number one. And number two, my mom really needed me. So we ended up postponing it a few times. The person who is hosting that workshop over in Michigan, it was going to be in Hastings, Michigan. Her daughter has had a couple of surgeries, and so what we ended up doing was just bringing the workshop back here to Tomo, Wisconsin, back to Star Nations, to the physical academy, and so that's going to be on June 12th, and it's going to be a very small class. I'm only taking 6 people, and so it's going to be a very cozy, intimate kind of situation, because usually I take up to 12 to 14 people, right? And so with this one, yeah, we're going to be able to spend some time together. And Julie Shumway Hill, I'm going to think about how we're going to do a learn how to drum kind of situation. Okay. Maybe, see, Paul and I are going to be doing some traveling this summer after June. We're going to be out there doing some fun stuff, we're hoping, with the RV and that sort of thing. So we'll try to figure that out. Maybe it won't be until later in the summer, early fall if we do it. So we'll figure that out though, to get together. Even if we do a drum circle, I think that would be fun. All right, so I'm going to show you this. This is the information about the drum making workshop that's coming up. Like I said, there are several people in the chat that have made a drum with me, and it is a transformative, we'll use that experience for some people, because when you make a drum, you're learning a lot about alchemy and how we take the medicine or the spirit of the wood, in our case maple, the spirit of either the elk or the buffalo, and you're combining it with your own, and you're literally creating a spirit, a drum spirit, and connecting to that drum spirit in that newly created drum, that birth drum. And so it's a whole different kind of experience when you add the knowledge and the acknowledging of the spirit, right? And every time you make a drum, it's like a snapshot of where you're at in your life. I've made several drums, and the very first one I ever made, I couldn't get the lacing centered for nothing. I tried so hard to get those laces centered, and I couldn't get it done. And then this one that was done in 2007, you can kind of see in the back, and how nice and even the lacing is. They're balanced. Right? So making a drum, it's kind of like a snapshot of where you're at in life. Yeah, and it's all good. It's all good. It's just that, yeah, it teaches you something about yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. So I am. Oh, Terry, I wish you could too. She said, "Wish I could come and make another drum. Maybe next time." Yeah, yeah, maybe. We'll have to see when we're going to be able to do that again. Um, and wait, I'm going to put the link up for you. If I can find it. Here it is. Yeah. I've had people make drums that the 22-inch drum, that's the largest I think we've made in a class. And the smallest has been a 12-inch. No, maybe it was 10, a 10-inch drum, because let me tell you, those 10-inch drums, hand drums, fit really well in backpacks because I've made a couple for myself, and to be able to just to backpack in someplace in nature and sit down and drum, there's nothing like it. Uh-huh. That's what I mean. Okay, we're gonna bring this one down. Mine broke up my marriage, and then the head split within days of me moving out. Oh, I remember that. I remember that, Rob. Yeah, I tell you, it's yeah. You learn a lot about yourself, and it can transform your life. That's for sure. All right. All right. So, with drumming and drum making, drumming, that ancient part of us, when I was very young, my grandfather, my Misho, he was they called it a speaker of a religion called the big drum or the dream drum. And so my connection to the drum includes that because uh, my mom would drive my grandparents up to the gatherings, and there was at least 4 a year, right? And so I had the dance connection to the drum by then. And when we would go up there, the drum took on a completely different persona, if you will, the big drum. It was all about a belief in a religion, and that the drummers, of course, were all men, and the women were, we would call it holding space, but they were praying, and they were being aware of what was going on within the wigwam. And as a child, that was yeah, that was the first time I ever heard the drum mother sing. And the drum mother is the being that brought the drum to the people. And the drum that was brought to the people was actually she was a human. She was a human. Tail Feather Woman was her name, and she was a Dakota Sioux, a woman, Lakota, and yeah, she was taught by spirit how to make the drum and was given certain songs to sing with the drum. And when she took the drum back to her people and helped them to make a drum, the instructions from the creator was to give the drum to their enemy. And at the time, the enemy was the Ojibwa out of northwestern Minnesota. And so that drum was really about peace. It was about peace. And so they gave them the drum and they taught them the songs. And so this particular religion, this big drum, dream drum religion, was really found more in the upper Midwest, because each time each group, each tribe or nation received the drum, the dream drum, it was then made and given to another group of people, another nation, right? And so it went from tribe to tribe to tribe to tribe in the upper Midwest. In its heyday, there was big drums, several big drums all across. It would be northeastern, North and South Dakota, and Minnesota, Wisconsin, Upper Indiana, northwestern central Michigan, up into Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah, yeah. So that connection that I have to the drum covers quite a large area. Yeah, and so that big drum or that dream drum, there's lots of stories that go with it. Lots of stories from my grandfather, and um, so when I was given the instructions from spirit to do the drum making class, think that was in 2005 or 6, something like that. And yeah, because otherwise, as a Native American Ho-Chunk Potawatomi Yaqui woman, I wasn't supposed to touch a drum. And so it was going against a lot of beliefs back then. And today it's not quite that strict. And so things have changed, evolved quite a bit. But it was yeah. He was walking on thin ice there for quite a while, and so but the drum has always been a part of my life, and so to be able to share that with somebody, to other people, that was such a pivotal moment for me, for sure. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure I have a little time to share this other thing with you. And that is, oh yeah, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to turn this one off because it's hard to see. There we go. In every show, what I've been doing is adding a little something for you guys, because here at Star Nations, we have a plethora of content in all of the past issues of Star Nations magazine, and even the past shows. Right, there's a lot of information out there that we've already shared with you guys that you may not know that it's even there. And so what I've been doing is I've been going into the archives of the magazine and matching up some of the issues that have articles in them that is relatable to the topics that I'm bringing to you. And so in this particular one for the drum, we did a thank you issue. Digitally, this particular issue of the Star Nations magazine is free. The print on demand, you're only paying for the printing of the magazine. And so this is the sacred drum. And so this issue is all about drums. And yeah, there's some really good ones in here too. Issues, articles, information about the drum. And so if you'd like to get this particular issue, if you order it from our friends at our power partners at MagCloud, the digital, that would be PDF. It would also be web viewer, and also, wait, I got to do something here. And also the PDF. Oh, and the ones for your smartphones. Okay, those would be free. If you want a printed version of this one, then you're just paying for the printing of it. So I will give you the link to MagCloud. There we go. And that would be showing up. And I hope you guys enjoy this one, this particular issue. It was fun putting it together. Now, the cover picture is actually my very, very first drum I ever made, back in 2002, I think it was. And the feathers on top of the drum are mine, my eagle feathers. And the shawl that's there, that pink shawl, is also mine. And so I had gone to have some professional pictures taken early in my teaching career. And I had my items with me, right? And the photographer asked if she could take some pictures of just the drum. And I said, sure. And so she did all the laying out and the changing and the shifting. And and so, when we did this particular issue, I thought, oh, I have the perfect cover picture for this. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy this issue. That'll be fun. All right. Gotta bring that one down. And I have just one more other thing I want to share with you before we say goodnight. That is the other class that's coming up in June. All these two classes, they'd been scheduled out, and we ended up rescheduling, postponing, right? And so this particular one had started out being a online class. And what I ended up doing, because my mom needed me, we needed to postpone it. And then I decided, let's turn it into an in-person class. because most of us that we're going to get the vaccination, we've done that. Um, and those of us that decide that we're not going to get the vaccination, you guys don't really mind being in groups of people. And so, Georgie here. And so, this particular class, the Journey of Remembering, is all about um, bringing your heart and your head together, right? Because you already know about this. Is this helping you to remember your connection to your higher self and to the Creator, and how to be in that unified field? And the very first thing that you learn how to create is your Merkaba. And why is that Merkaba important and all of that? And so, now this particular class is based on the information that I learned from one of my teachers, Drenflo Melchizedek. And he taught us how to do this, right? And I was one of his teachers early on, um, of the Awakening Illuminated Heart. And then when my mom got pretty, needing me, I couldn't keep up with the teaching hours in order to retain my active status with that particular organization. And so now that I have the ability to be able to go out and teach and that sort of thing, I'll be more active. So this is the first one that we're going to be doing in person, June 17th through the 20th, 4 days. So we're going to start on Wednesday night, actually. That's Thursday through Sunday. You need to be here on Wednesday night for a meet and greet. And we're going to do an introduction information to the class. And then so that we can really get focused on Thursday morning and really start diving into the information so that by Sunday afternoon, you're ready to activate your what's called your organic Merkaba and learn how to drive it, right? Yeah. So this is that's going to happen here in Toma, and on my mom, and I gave you it's the same link for the drum making class that takes you to the website. Okay, to the Academy page at the website if you want more information or if you want to register. So good. Yay, we got that all in. uh yeah. Hey, Rochelle. I don't know what that was for. And so Terry's saying the journey of remembering class sounds perfect. That disconnect often plagues me. You're not the only one, Terry. I just talked to someone else that's coming. Hopefully, he'll be coming from Minnesota, and he was telling me that he is knows that the time is now, and for him, and that because he's getting very tired and frustrated with getting information in pieces, right? That piecemeal approach, and so to be able to sit and do this in a retreat kind of setting, to be able to achieve that activation of your Merkaba, because that's another pivotal point in your life. Yeah, I did mine back in 2001. 2001. All right. So we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you all for being with me this evening and sharing in the conversation about our ancient connection to the drum. And I hope that the information I shared with you maybe gave you an aha moment, or maybe it was a moment even of validation. Okay. Yeah. So join me next week. I should know what I'm doing next week, but I don't. Wait. Uh, Okay, so the 11th, on the 11th, we're going to be talking about the Merkaba on the 11th. Okay, yay. So I get to share a little bit more information about that with you, about why is our Merkaba so important? Why do we need to have that activated? And why isn't it? Why do we have to actually activate it? So join me next week for that. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, and Bama Mina. That's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. I love you guys.